Hi everyone. So I am gonna just let this play as I usually would with a little bit of calming music in the background. But this time I'm just gonna talk you through little bits here and there as to what I'm doing. So I just started by doing a light wash of the areas, every aspect of the painting. And now I'm just adding in extra details for the trees, just a few different shades of green. Unfortunately, it did skip past a bit then because my camera stopped recording, but I did the same for the grass, and I just added some depth in the grass with just some different values and different shades of green. And now I'm going back in with a little bit more of a detail brush, just to add some darker shades and more vibrant colour washes in my house. I'm not doing any dark outlining or details at the moment. I'm just trying to get the overall feel whilst trying to leave some light areas. Throughout most of this painting, I actually wasn't super happy with it until the last 5 minutes, and you'll see what I mean later. If you watch to the end, you'll see how I had a few little bits here and there at the end, and it saves the painting. So keep watching. At the moment, I'm not too worried about details. I'm not that worried about details in a lot of my paintings anyway, as long as I get the overall feeling and suggestions of what is there. That's the most important part. Now this is my little steps, where my steps are going to be in my path, and my little stone wall on the raised foundation for the house. So I just added some darker values around there too. Always just suggestion, and then you can let that wash dry, and you can always add to it later if you're not too happy with it. It's better to just do things in steps as you go along rather than doing too much and then not being able to take away. I actually did lighten quite a few areas later. You'll see what I mean towards the end. There we go. I am here just starting to add some of my darkest values. Just to suggest some detail at the side of the house. Framing the doors, just so they don't get lost. There is actually a little bench there, so I'm just trying to help it to pop forward a little bit. Very light hand. Trying to get my detail for the steps there and the little stones that are going to be around my wall. My stone wall for my foundation of the house. Darker shadows at the edges of the path. I really loosen that up with some water there. and then followed that through into the grass, especially in the foreground. I tried to keep it minimum with detail going towards the back. Always just trying to push things back or bring things forward. Just layers on layers on layers. Going for a more greeny blue towards the back. Further in the distance, the more blue I add. Obviously my sky is going to be blue, so whatever the colour of your sky is, a good tip is to always mix them further trees with the colour of the sky, and then water it down a lot so it's not as vivid. I do actually lighten those trees at the back later as well. Now I'm just going in and kind of negative painting my sky now. I always like to go in with the clouds and then chisel them out. As you can see, chisel out the details in the clouds and work around whatever's in the foreground of my painting. So just making sure we're getting all the nooks and crannies in the trees and then blending it out with a damp brush just to loosen and soften the edges a little bit. You don't really want any harsh lines in the clouds. So I actually stop in a minute and then I'll come back in later and I add more blue because I think it calls for it. As I'm going along, because I'm not going off a reference photo with this, so I just kind of keep adding and continuing until I'm happy with my piece. I did actually step away multiple times in between these camera shots. You probably won't be able to tell, but that's something else that I do is when I'm unsure what to carry on with at a certain time and I'm not too keen on it, I'll step away, come back, and I usually add things or remove things. But it just also goes to show that it can be saved, even when you think it can't. There we go, dampening my brush and pulling in that blue from the edges into my clouds, just to soften them and give them a little bit more depth. Adding some blue just through the trees. Trees are rarely ever opaque. You always see through them in one way or another. back in with some greens there. So enrich the colour at the foreground as well. And there's some darker values too. And this is suggesting a bit of a shadow here now. Just from the trees and the house. So this deep green that you can see here, this is one of my go-to colours, and you can lighten or darken it really. If you mix Payne's grey with any of your yellows on your palette, you'll get a really deep olive colour, which is really lovely and really helpful. It's a really quick go-to easy green that looks natural. And then using a lighter green just to fluff out the edges of my trees there at the top. Allowing that to go into my sky. And mixing up my dark purple colour. As you know, I don't know if you noticed in my other work, if you watch it, I love to use dark purple for my shadows. Or if not dark purple, I use a darker shade of whatever I am casting the shadow from. I just feel like it just gives it so much more life. It just makes it really visually more interesting. More dark values. I felt like a lot of this painting I was literally just fighting with my values up until the very end and continually adding. I continued to add dark values throughout this, and as I said, I weren't too keen, and then towards the end, that's when I go in with my lighter values, and it literally just makes everything pop, and that was my missing piece. Honestly, I almost threw this painting in the bin. I don't know if anybody else has ever been there before. So I'm adding my shadows then around the house underneath my roof, as you could see. It's around the areas that would be casting shadows, even across the doorway, underneath the bench, you know, all them places. And then I just damped my brush there and I wet that area and I took away all the paint, and I did the same for the top there, just to take away some of the pigment, and it can really help to lighten up certain areas. And although I did like that, it still wasn't enough for me. And I did go even lighter towards the end of this video. I obviously decided to walk away for a minute and come back and add more blue in this bit. I don't know if it was the right decision, but that's what I did. And here is the star of the show. So this is when my painting actually comes together now, and just a little smidgen of white gouache there, and I'm gonna be popping it in multiple areas of this painting just to make things pop. So highlighting the top of the steps there, the top of the walkway on the house. You know, you just got to imagine where would light be hitting really here, and what can I make pop. So just certain areas on the top of the roof there, just helped that really, I feel like that really helped it to come out from the trees. I feel like it was getting lost because it's very similar value. And added some highlights to my my door and certain areas of the house there. So I've mixed it in with some lovely colours here, varying from pinks to oranges to yellows. Mixed a bit of white in with them, just so they sit on top of the grass nicely and suggest some lovely wild flowers there at the front. And then making my dots very smaller at the back. And then I go in a second and I just decide to make that whole grass plane at the back of my painting there completely lighter than it is now. And I honestly think this is what saved it, this one step that you'll see in a minute. So I start by doing that, and then I'm like, nope, I'm just going to make the entire thing much lighter than it is. And then I realised that made it look a lot nicer. And I just think that one step, just then making that grass bit at the back, just saved my painting. So then I added some lighter values in my trees at the back and the front. And then I went away again and I came back and I had to film this separately by hand because I wanted to add some more darker values underneath that light value at the front, just to make that roof pop a little bit more and bring it forward underneath my bench. All the dark areas, a few little bits here and there, and there we go. I was happy with that, finally. But yeah, so kind of happy with this. I'll give it a 6 out of 10.